There's been another mass shooting in America. That means there's another community stunned with grief.
At least 19 people were killed today at a hospital in Afghanistan. It was bombed in what appears to have been an American airstrike aimed at Taliban militants.
And communities across the country forced to relieve their own anguish, and parents across the country who are scared because they know it might have been their families or their children.
Two women just in absolute despair. "There's nothing left for me," she cries. "They killed 30 members of my family." A nearby hospital, children who lived through a nightmare.
Officials said patients who were unable to escape burned to death in their beds, and at least 3 of the victims were children.
But as I said just a few months ago, and I said a few months before that, and I said each time we see one of these mass shootings, our thoughts and prayers are not enough.
Defense Secretary Ash Carter called it tragic and offered my thoughts and prayers to everyone affected.
It does not capture the heartache and grief and anger that we should feel.
Hospital run by Doctors Without Borders still burning. Inside, bloodied staff slumped in hallways. Surgery still underway in a makeshift operating room.
They saw patients burning in their beds. Completely traumatic, distressing scenes.
And it does nothing to prevent this carnage from being inflicted someplace else in America. Next week, or a couple of months from now.
In September of 2012, a U.S. airstrike in the Yemeni village of Sarar killed 12 civilians, many of them women and children. The intended target was nowhere near the vehicle.
A 68-year-old woman, Mamana Bibi, was killed in a drone strike that appears to have been directly targeted at her. Her grandchildren recounted in painful detail to Amnesty International the moment when she was blown into pieces in front of their very eyes while she was gathering vegetables.
Somehow this has become routine.
The drone kills from June 2004 to September 2012. So this includes George W. Bush's drones as well as Barack Obama's. In Pakistan alone, killed between 2,500 and 3,300 people. Between 475 and 884 were civilians, and 176 were children.
We've become numb to this.
The attack killed 14 suspected militants, but it also killed 41 civilians. Most of them were women and children.
Somehow this has become routine. We've become numb to this.
But by one estimate, during the Obama administration, we've launched 8 times the number of drone strikes than we did under his predecessor.
Somehow this has become routine. We've become numb to this.
Surveys consistently show a majority of Americans approve of our use of drone strikes to fight.
And of course, what's also routine is that somebody somewhere will comment and say, Obama politicized this issue. Well, this is something we should politicize.
You spoke to President Obama, and you went right for the jugular with very controversial issues about your home country. You talked to him about drones.
When it comes to drone attacks, it is true that in drone attacks, 2 or 3 terrorists are being killed, but along with that, civilians are also targeted. Like, terrorists are killed because of drone attacks, but terrorism is increased and terrorism spread more and more.
Well, this is something we should politicize.
As the debate in Washington over drones remains mostly theoretical, here in Pakistan, the impact of drones is very real, killing not just terrorists, but women and children too.
We collectively are answerable to those families who lose their loved ones because of our inaction. America's actions are legal, so this is a just war, a war waged proportionally in last resort and in self-defense. So, tonight, as those of us who are lucky enough to hug our kids a little closer, are thinking about the families who aren't so fortunate, I'd ask the American people to think about how they can get our government to change these laws and to save lives and to let young people grow up. And that will require a change of politics on this issue. And it will require that the American people, individually, whether you are a Democrat or a Republican or an independent, when you decide to vote for somebody, are making a determination as to whether this cause of continuing death for innocent people should be a relevant factor in your decision. If you think this is a problem, then you should expect your elected officials to reflect your views. I hope and pray that I don't have to come out again during my tenure as president to offer my condolences to families in these circumstances. But based on my experience as president, I can't guarantee that.